Greetings gamers! Today I have a very special video for you where I'll be discussing in detail Dragon Implings, how much they cost, and how feasible they are to farm. You heard that right? I said farm. So make sure you watch this entire thing because it's very insane and the math is extremely impressive. So stay tuned. Now, firstly, before we start, I have to explain what are Implings. Implings spawn all around the world of RuneScape. However, over the years, players like Swamp Lennox and Verf in the Karamanja locked account have severely studied these creatures, and with the help of the community, have developed a heat map of Impling spawn with some rough math, and I was able to use that to make these calculations. Now, these Implings give a various amount of random items that in some cases might be useful for Ironman or niche accounts, but as of April 21st, 2016, Implings also provide players with clue scrolls. Now, this is essentially useful for mains because they can purchase Implings from the Grand Exchange and in almost zero time open them and receive clue scrolls, which is by far the meta for every single clue type. And unfortunately for Ironman, it's also the meta for medium clues, which hopefully that changes, but that's a whole other ramble on itself. As such, mains are willing to pay a hefty price to purchase these Implings, and thus promoting players on creating bot farms to catch them or catching them themselves for money. Now, over the years, as you may know from my channel or multiple other channels, collection log has become much more dominant in the mainscape of RuneScape. And there's a clear trend in Dragon Implings and Implings in general rising in price as a result, especially when Bodhi started his collection log series. Now, I'm not putting any shame on Bodhi, his series is amazing, but it did bring a lot of attention to Implings specifically. Now, the Dragon Implings is by far the most intriguing Impling of them all, because the rewards average around 115,000 coins as of the recording of this video. However, they cost 400,000 GP to purchase, but they provide a 1 in 50 chance of receiving an Elite Clue Scroll. Now, these clues, Elite Clues, are by far the worst and most difficult clues of acquiring within the game. And they can also be done for, of course, completing Elite Clues for the collection log, but they can also be traded to Watson with an easy, medium, and hard clue to receive a Master Clue. The Master Clue can give you a pet, the Bloodhound, which is sought after by pet hunters, but also gives you a lot of collection log slots in the Master section and has a chance of giving you rare Third Age pieces. Now, when I say rare Third Age pieces, I don't actually mean Third Age pieces being rare. I mean there's Third Age pieces that are much rarer than others. So, for example, some Third Age pieces are shared between the Hard, Elite, and Master tiers, and those are considered as common, and I'm saying common in quotations, Third Age items because they're much easier to acquire as opposed to the ones that are specifically on the Master tier, such as Druidic. Now, all this introduction, the general introduction is all cool, but like, what the hell? Where are you going with this alone? That's what you might be asking yourself. And actually, you know what? Let's go into cringe stuff. So as of today, if you were smoking enough drugs or like had the urge to complete the collection log for whatever reason you wanted, including all of Third Age, as per simulations, you need to complete 92,526 Master Clues and 10,640 Elite Clues, and 32,081 Hard Clues. Now, this is the median completion. Of course, if you get really lucky, that can be sliced significantly, or if you go dry, let's just not think about that. Now, since we're both lazy and I want to make the math a lot easier to comprehend, we're gonna assume that you get slightly lucky and only have to do 90,000 Masters and 10,000 Elite Clues, which would mean you would have to collect 100,000 Elite Clues to trade in. Now, the current best options for mains is to cremate shades, and you can purchase the shade remains and the logs from the Grand Exchange. You can tick manipulate the Celestius bark and cremate them, and then you can also open the keys for a 1 in 100 chance or a 1 in 95 with Elite Combat achievements to receive an Elite Clue. And the maximum efficiency rate for mains, now I can't speak from experience, but according to my friend Chung Us, he said you can expect to receive 2.5 elites per hour and complete 2.2 an hour, which means each Elite Clue takes you on average 24 minutes to acquire. And as such, if you wanted to gather 100,000 of them, that would take you 40,000 hours, which is equivalent of spending 10 years, actually no, 20 years at a full-time job. So let that sink in for a second. Okay, now let's say you were sponsored by Jeff Bezos and he figured that you would buy Dragon Implings to save time instead of opening shades. And while opening your Dragon Implings, you'd take less than 30 seconds to open, 50, and you would get a clue scroll. So if you did the calcs as the time of the recording, you would lose 13.5 million GP per every elite clue scroll you gather by this method. And if you do some quick math, saving 24 minutes of your time for 13.5 million GP means that you have to spend 34 million coins to save 1 hour of your time. So if you're capable of making over 34 million GP per hour, it's worth it for you to purchase DMs and spend all your time making money from whatever method you're talking about in order to grind elites and master clues. Now, for reference, max efficiency solo 500 invocation Tombs of Amasket is around 20 mil GP per hour. Dual Nex is around 50 million GP per hour. And unless you're no monkey doing 1+1 500 TOA speeds with 0 mistakes, or you're selling unethical services, or you're selling ethical boosting services, I don't think you'd be able to make that amount of money. And that's no, don't punch on anyone, that's just a very insane amount of GP per hour. So let's just say instead of that, we as a community decide to pool all our money together and fully fund Dragon Implings for a specific content creator. And my vote by far goes to Hey Jace. And we buy out the entire stack of Dragon Implings of the economy and funnel them to him, so we can spam open them and do elites and master clues to complete the collection log as fast as possible. Now, how would this work? So let's ignore the fact that firstly, if we ever decided to do this, Dragon Impling prices would soar like crazy and they would probably rise to a disgusting amount. But ignoring that, let's assume the two options that come to mind. First option, which is the least fun one, and I'm saving the second one for last because it's by far the best one. The first option is every single week, on average, 15,000 Implings are sold from the GE. Now you have to remember that some of these are most likely being merged, but ignoring that, you can assume 2,000 Implings per day are sold. So if we as a community decided to dump 800 million GP per day and bought out the entire Impling stack, that would give Hey Jace 40 elite clues per day. And he can gradually open them over time, but it would still take him 2,500 days to get enough Implings to be a collection log. Now, that would also be a net loss of 1.3 trillion GP, which even if you RWT'd, you real traded that for real life money, at 25 cents per mil, that's $1/3 worth of OSRS GP, which is a virtual currency. Let that sink in your mind. Now, on a side note, I took an edible and I was really thinking about this last week. And it would be really cool if, imagine we had like a bunch of teams running raids, like 8-man TOAs or some tops, some CMs, and everyone agreed that anytime they got a purple, they would just toss it in like a bucket and it would go to like a Hey Jace fund to afford Dragon Implings. I think that would be really cool. And honestly, I would do raids for that purpose if anyone's down. Now, the second option, which, like, this is insane. So let's just say, obviously this is not the case, I do not condone this, but let's just say you were a very naughty boy and you had a deep love for Hey Jace. The best solution by far would be to create a massive bot farm where you train every single bot to 83 Hunter, provide them with a butterfly net and impling jars, and have them sit at every single spawn location of implings around the entire game of RuneScape. Now, the bots would only catch Dragon Implings and would feed them to you, and then you would give those Dragon Implings to Hey Jace. Now, chances are, if you actually did this, you're for sure getting banned for botting because it's so obvious. But let's keep going because it's really fun. But if you really think I'm finished here, and you should know by now I'm a degenerate, so let's go on more math because this is really cool. So around the game, there are 53 spawns that can spawn Implings. However, only 42 of them can spawn Dragon Implings because they have a chance of rolling the hard tier. Every 30 minutes, each spawn rolls a chance of spawning 3 Implings. However, these implings remain invisible for 2 to 3 minutes and then despawn after 30 minutes. There's a 4 in 100 chance of rolling the heart tier, and then there's a 10 in 101 chance of rolling the Dragon Impling. So if you do some quick math, every day we'll have the following. You have 24 hours in a day. Every 30 minutes you get a chance of spawning, which means you get 48 spawns per day. Every location has 3 spawns. There are 42 locations. There's a 4 in 100 chance or 4% chance of rolling the heart tier, and then there's a 10 in 101 chance of getting a D-Imp. Which means, on average, you would get 0.499 D-Imps. Which means that at any given time in the entire map of RuneScape, you should expect mathematically 0.499 or 0.5 Dragon Implings to be roaming around Gielinor. However, there's one thing I didn't factor here, which is Puro, because Puro has 2 spawns that can roll Dragon Implings, and this raid is slightly buffed as opposed to the mainland. If you factor these Implings in, it adds a further 0.0598 Dragon Implings around Gielinor, and if you combine the two, it means that across the entire map of RuneScape, mainland, Puro, everywhere, you should expect mathematically 0.559 Dragon Implings roaming around the game in any pay-to-play world. If we further expand on this, 48 spawns per day and a total of 158 membered worlds, we can safely say that every single day in RuneScape, 4,238 Dragon Implings will spawn. And this map is really funny because obviously many of them will never end up being captured and will most likely despawn, or they'll be captured by hand by some Ironman or some regular player with no intention of selling them or farming the elite clues, which are essentially wasted in quotation mark for this goal or this purpose. So you would need to have 42 bots at every single location, at every single world, validating if they spawn any Dragon Implings, and you would have to secure the D-Imp, of course. You could definitely reduce the amount of bots by, hopping worlds and so on, but then you have a risk of losing Implings. So that's something for the bot farm to consider. Now, if you take all this math together, it means you can collect 4,000 of them per day instead of 4,200. You would speed up the timeline by Hey Jace by a factor of 2, which would still take him 3.5 years to get enough Dragon Implings to complete the collection log, which is absolutely insane. And when I decided to make this video, I didn't think it was going to be this insane. But the more I was digging into the math and studying the mechanics of Implings, the more I was fascinated by this. And I just knew that I had to make a video about this because this is just too funny and such a cringe math to be aware of. So next time you log into RuneScape, don't forget to tell your friend that, by the way, every single day around RuneScape, 4,238 Dragon Implings will spawn mathematically. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed this cringe video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and peace out, Girl Scout.